Simon Chaplin, and this morning I am going to be challenging you on how rubbish your recruitment process is. So, good morning. We'll start again, should we? I know we're in London. We don't talk to people in London, do we? We definitely avoid eye contact. So we'll start again. And if I don't get a better response this time, I've got this overwhelming urge to do a Mexican wave all the way down to there you go. Look at that. There's one going already. So we'll start again then. Good morning. Morning. Right. I am Simon Chaplin, and this morning I am going to be challenging you on how rubbish your recruitment process is. And as a result of that, hopefully you'll be able to go away and find some people to work in your accountancy practice without having to go outside of the country. But we'll see where we go. So I've written a book, Banish the Bottleneck. Banish the Bottleneck is all about how you remove yourself as the bottleneck within your practice. Fundamentally, that process involves you delegating your rubbish to other people. And in order to be able to do that, you need other people to be able to delegate it to. So the recruitment process and identifying the recruitment process is fundamental to that. We've got a stand today. 884 is literally just over there. After today's presentation, I will hang around like a bad smell. If you've got any questions, please come over and ask the questions. If I've disappeared, I'll be over on 884. So please come and have a conversation with me over there. Now, as I am talking to accountants, we run mastermind groups for accountants. I very often hear people say we can't get good people. And the really rubbish ones, they say they can't even get anybody at all. Just can't get anybody to respond to their adverts. The recruitment agents that they're using can't get anybody for them. And worst of all, they say the things like, I'm going to have to outsource. I'm going to have to outsource, even though I don't want to. I'm going to have to recruit people in another country. Or some of the really sort of oldie ones will say, but I'm going to have to let them work from home or do a 4-day week or something like that. So today is all about getting proper people to come and work within your practice. Now, when I speak to those people, what they tend to say, the first question is, so what have you tried? Okay, and they tend to say, well, we stuck an advert on Indeed, rubbish advert, I nearly swore then, but a rubbish advert, and we posted it on LinkedIn. And it's like, wow. So your recruitment process is to write a rubbish advert, stick it on Indeed for 300 quid, and stick it on LinkedIn. And that's the lot. And they expect to recruit good people, brilliant people, in order to come and work within their accountancy practice. So there is a better way, obviously, than that. So what we're going to look at this morning is the three fundamental mistakes every practice makes. Unless you work with me and have seen me speak before, every person makes these mistakes when they write a job advert. We're going to look at the top 5 places in order to put the advert once you've written it. And there's some different ones just to get you thinking, provoke you a little bit. And then we're going to do the first thing you must do when somebody applies for a job, to weed out the rubbish, yeah? To save you having to go through all the CVs of all the people that think they can do the job, but can't. Fundamentally, this is a 12-step process that I have written to take you from deciding that you need to employ somebody all the way through to deciding whether you want to keep them at the end. And deciding whether you're going to keep them at the end is as fundamental as deciding that you're going to employ somebody in the first place. You don't need to take photographs of it. You can have a copy of this. I'm going to show you as a QR code. If you can't see it at the sides, the QR code will be at the end. You'll get a copy of the roadmap. You'll get a copy of the advert. I'm going to provoke you in a minute with an advert by Steph Rickaby, who I had a lot of involvement in. Steph is one of the more way out there versions of the adverts that we've written. And you'll also get the fact find, which I'll talk about in a bit. And I'll leave the QR code up at the end so you can come and grab it, just in exchange for your email address. And then obviously once I've got your email address, I'm going to send you loads of emails, flogging you loads of stuff, and you'll never stop hearing from me again. Not really. That was a joke. But anyway, here we go. Today, we're going to concentrate on steps 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the 3 fundamental mistakes that accountancy practices and most businesses make when they're writing a job advert is you start with what you want. And you'll have seen them if you've ever looked for a job on Indeed or any of the other job advert sites. They start with stuff like, we are looking for an accountancy semi-senior with 3 years experience in an accountancy practice that can do accounts and rubbish like that. So you start with what it is that you want. The second is that it's full of we's. We want this, we are looking for that, we pay a competitive salary. If the salary is competitive, why don't you tell us what it is? I hate that. Competitive salary is an absolute waste of time. But you start with we, this is what we want. Any advert, whether it be for a customer or for a team member, needs to be about the person that's reading the adverts. Okay, so you need to make it about them. If you take nothing else away from today, when you write your advert, write it about them. When you design your website, design it for the person that's reading it, not for you that's writing it. And if you're going to put don't put competitive salary. You'll get a massive higher response of the quality of candidates that you want if you put an actual salary on. Even if you put a range on, it's an absolute no-brainer. Sometimes people come up to me at the end and say, Simon, if I put the salary on the website or on the job advert, then the current team, they're going to see what I'm paying the new person. And I don't want that, because then they'll want a pay rise. And the answer's always got to be, give them the bloody pay rise now before they leave. So don't start with what you want. Get rid of the we's and use a competitive salary. Here is an example of an advert that I have helped write. And as I've said, this is Steph Rickaby. Sunflower Accounts, that's the name of her accountancy practice, okay? And that's relevant to the copy that she has written. And I'm going to walk you through Steph's advert and give you some ideas and hopefully provoke you into thinking a little bit differently about how you're attracting the candidates that you want. So she starts with questions. Are you an accounting superstar that wants to be part of an accounting family? Are you ready for your accountancy career to bloom? So what do sunflowers do? They bloom. Are you ready to grow? What do sunflowers do? They grow. Are you ready to spread some sunshine, sunflowers, into the world of accountancy? So you see, she's not just sat there and copied and pasted the advert that she used 2 years ago, whacked it on Indeed and LinkedIn, and then forgotten about it. She's thought about the type of person that she wants to attract into her accountancy practice, and then used the language that goes back to her brand in order to attract that person. Now, there will be people in the audience that go, oh, I don't like that, all that flary stuff. I definitely don't want that. Yeah, which is good, because you probably wouldn't fit Steph's culture. And therefore, you are pre-qualifying, dismissing yourself before you even get into the process. She then goes on to talk about all of the different things that you will receive as a part of joining the Steph's practice. So choice to work flexibly, the team that cares passionately for the clients, do the accounts, you have a positive work-life balance. So it's all about what the individual is going to receive by joining her accountancy practice. It then goes on to share a testimonial. So within her job advert, just the same as you would do if you was looking for customers, within her job advert, she is using current team members' words about her practice in order to promote her practice to future team members. So why would you not use a testimonial? Again, lots of accountants will say to me, oh, well, I didn't ask my team what they think about working for me in case they don't say something very nice. Well, for me, that's a massive opportunity in order to learn why they won't give you a testimonial and then do something about it before they leave. And then the last thing is what they will receive. And you'll notice Steph has put in a range. A number is better. A range is not quite so good, but they're both better than a competitive salary. And then what it is that they will actually get. And then, last but not least, at the bottom, if you've attracted somebody to your advert, you've got them to read the advert, then they need to know what skills, resources, experience they need to have in order to apply for that job. And again, all the way through, you'll notice the language is around sunflowers and a part of Steph's culture. Even the bullet points have got little flowers against the name in order to attract those people. And then lastly, you need a strong call to action. So depending on where the advert is going will depend obviously on the call to action that you need to have in there. Another question I very often get asked is, do you ask people to do videos, Simon, when they apply? Okay, so there's a bit of a fad at the moment where people say, can you do us a quick 30-second, 1-minute video to see how... you've thrown me there, Mr. Dunn. Lovely to see you. To see how they're going to interact with people. I always say, is doing video part of their job? Do they need to be an outgoing person? Because the majority of accountants doing accountancy work won't be doing videos. Okay, so if you want a salesman, definitely do a video. If you want somebody that goes out networking, do a video. Make sure they've not got two heads. But if they're just doing accounts, tax return, I say just doing accounts. If they're doing the donkey work, then you probably don't get a video. You'll put them off. So number one, first part of the advert is what will they experience, okay? What will they experience by working within your practice? Number two, what will they get? So salaries and stuff like that. Testimonial from the team. And then what you want, okay? Lastly, the call to action. What do you want them to do in order to apply for the job? So that is basically the structure of the job advert. And as I said, at the end, I'm going to give you a QR code so you can download the job advert and the process, and you can go and write your own. If you go away and write an advert and you would like me to sanity check it, I will gladly do that as long as you put some effort in first. So don't write me 4 or 5 lines and then send it to me and say, Simon, can you do something with that? The answer to that will be no. But if you've write an advert, think about it for 2 or 3 days, adjust it, edit it, think about it for another couple of 3 days, and then send it to me. I will gladly critique it for you and make it the best that we can make it. And as I said, you will get a copy of the advert. If you send me your email address, you will get a copy of the advert at the end of today. So once you've written your perfectly worded and scripted advert, where do you put it? Well, number one, there's a chap over in the corner, you wave, Postify. Postify have got a deal with us if you go and speak to them. And what stand are you on? 804. Stand 804. They'll knock you a few quid off their advertising. And what they do in my world, in my language, and forgive me if I don't get this correct, is they syndicate the advert over lots of different websites. Is that a good way? Yeah. So that means instead of you just sticking it on Postify, you put it on there and they send it out to various different places. And then on top of that, they have this dashboard thing called a TPS, ATS, and that means that all the job adverts come in and then you can sift through them and you can put flags against the good ones and the bad ones, and then you can sort it out without having to go through all the sorts of different CVs. However, once you've done that, in my mind, you don't just ask them for an interview, and I'll share with that in a minute. So number one place to go to is Postify, and make sure it goes out as wide as possible. We also have a website. Now, I don't quite understand why, as an accountancy practice, you have a website that's looking for customers, but at Greenstones, we also have one that's looking for team members. So this is accountancyjobspeterborough.co.uk. It is a proper working website. We have blogs that we publish on there. If we have a team event, birthdays, well, if you go on the website, you will see. And obviously, as a result of that, it attracts, it's like you do the advert, yeah? And then people will go and have a look to see who Greenstones are. The advert has already blown their mind. And then they go to the website and it blows their mind again. And then they come to an interview and it's like, how does what we have done compare to the other people that you're working with or potentially going to work with? And very, very, very few other accountancy practices in the country are doing anything like this. So all of a sudden, it doesn't become about salary and whether they can earn an extra 10% working for you. It becomes about the experience. So number one, Postify. That's an easy one. Number two, website. It's not that big, 5 pages, doesn't take a lot to knock it together. You can pay somebody on People Per Hour or any of the website people to do that for you. Our website comes from our Greenstones team charter. So when somebody applies for the job, the first thing we do is we send them the team charter, which is basically a marketing brochure, including things like Christmas parties that we do when we go horse racing and all the other different things. Talks about the values, talks about how weird I am, because I am not for everybody. There's quite a bit of excitement and passion, and some people don't necessarily like that. So it talks about my freakiness and the uniqueness and all sorts of things. So again, the team charter doesn't directly recruit people, but it does definitely work as part of the recruitment process. You do need to stick it on LinkedIn, despite what I said earlier. However, there's a slight nuance with this. If you just stick it on LinkedIn, some people will see it, but after about 3 days, LinkedIn will push it to the bottom of the pile, and then it'll get rejuvenated 7 days later, and then it will disappear off into the ether. Now, if you are looking for an accountant, especially at the trainee sort of starting out level, you should have in your network lots of parents or grandparents that have kids that are potentially wanting to be accountants. So one of the things we do is I take the job advert and I'll email it to the solicitors I know, the bank managers I know, the dentists that I know, the doctors that I know, the professionals people within my network, and ask them if they've got any friends, relatives, sons, daughters, etc., brothers that are looking for somebody to join or start a move accountancy practice. And also tends to be high net worth individuals that we've got within our network, or the bigger business owners. But you don't even need to do it yourself. Just give the login to somebody and let them get on and post the advert out to them. You'll be amazed at the response that you get. People will come back and you say, well, I don't know anybody, but the other week I was talking about little Johnny at such, and they'll respond. So be more proactive on what you're doing on LinkedIn. Another really good one, and again, it takes a little bit of effort, but not as much effort as what you think, is you run an event for the type of people that you want to recruit. So, say, for example, you're looking for somebody that you want to be able to use Xero or QuickBooks or some of the apps, Receipt Bank or whatever it is. You run an event called Top 10 Xero Time-Saving Hacks or whatever, in order to attract those candidates to you. And then during the course of the presentation, obviously you drop in the fact that you're recruiting. They've never seen anything like that before. There won't be any other accountants in your area, I guarantee you, that are running events for students or for those types of people. And they'll come along, and as a result of that, they'll want to know, they'll want to find out more about you, probably go to your website, ask if you've got any jobs, etc. When you think about it, there are loads. It's like, we ran one, it was top 10 time-saving hacks to pass your exams first time every time. Yeah, and you can imagine the people that we got coming along to that were ACCA, ICAEW, that were doing their study. Yeah, it's not complicated. And as soon as you get them in the room, even if they didn't know they was looking for a job, if you stand up front with a bit of energy, give them some useful information, show them how much more different you are, then they'll be naturally drawn towards you. So run an event. It doesn't have to be as big as that. We had 50 some odd people in the room that day. Even if it's 3 or 4 people in a room, you're in front of 3 or 4 people that you wouldn't have been if you hadn't run the event. These are outsourcing websites. So People Per Hour, Upworks, websites like that. Fiverr to a degree, but it's not as good as People Per Hour or Upworks or Elancer. And what you do is you go onto those websites and you put your job advert. Now, what you'll find is you'll get lots of people apply that aren't necessarily good enough for the job. However, you'll very often get somebody apply that is at home, perhaps looking after children, or they don't want to go back to the workplace, and they're looking for subcontract work. Now, if you then go back to them and say, well, I've got some subcontract work, I'll test you and see whether they're any good or not, but ultimately you can move them through the pipeline because they want a proper full-time job. They do tend to be people looking for work within school hours, but as a consequence of that, they do tend to be really, really good because they've got some experience before they've left, etc., etc. So again, just think a little bit differently. And then the last one again is a bit more radical. This was even better than what I thought it was going to be. We sponsored an advert, sponsored a roundabout. So if you go out the Greenstones office, you turn left, just up the road, there's a roundabout, and on the roundabout we've got the job advert. The reason why we put it on that roundabout is because we're on an industrial estate, and guess who else is on that industrial estate? Other accountants. And guess who works at other accountants? Accountants that we want to recruit. So this drives them to the accountancyjobspeterborough.com website where they can apply and fill in a fact find, etc., etc. Now, the double-edged sword of this one, this costs us about 1,800 quid from memory, 150 quid a month, something like that. The double-edged sword was we won new customers. So we had people ringing up saying, we've just seen your advert on the roundabout. Guess where they was going? They was going to see their accountant. We've just seen your advert on the roundabout, Simon, and because you're recruiting new people, that must mean that you're growing, which must mean that you're good. So we recruited way more customers, which negated the cost of having the advert in order to recruit people. Yeah, so just have a look next time when you're driving to your office. If you've got other accountancy practices around you, have a look to see if there's an advert, a website that you can advertise on. So lastly, let's just have a look. The first thing you should do when someone applies that will save you hours and hours of job time sifting through the CVs. And what you need to do is send them a fact find. Okay, so we have an automated process. So on the website, they stick the name, address, email address, telephone number into the website. And then as a result of that, they get an email saying, thank you very much for your interest, blah, blah, blah. And the email sends them to an MS Forms link. So like SurveyMonkey, whatever you use. It goes to a survey and then they fill the survey in. And off the back of that, a lady called Leanne that works for me, is a receptionist, administrator. She goes through the fact finds and she sifts out all the rubbish, the ones that don't meet our criteria. So what's on the fact, and then Nathan does the interviews and then I do the second interview. What's on the fact find? The first thing, name, email address, telephone number, really easy. If we get a recruitment agent send us a CV that we're interested in, the first thing we always do is send them the fact find. And if the recruitment agent says, can't send that fact find to them, Simon, because it's got a name, email address on it, we will not have anything to do with it. And if the recruitment agent says why, it is always, well, if you don't trust us enough to give us your customers or your clients' name and email address and telephone number, then I don't trust you enough to be honest and forthright with me when we're talking about the recruitment process. So it's a mutual way, and we've fallen out with recruitment agents over it. I don't like recruitment agents, and I won't go any further with that. I just don't like them. But anyway, so name, email address, telephone number. We then ask them to grade themselves in order to work out what their experience is. Now, you will get people that mark themselves 10 out of 10. Yeah? Now, the 10 out of 10s are probably not 10 out of 10s. I'll let you in a little secret. Probably not 10 out of 10s. But what you'll find is they tend to be the more outgoing, more energetic accountants. And therefore, if you're looking for somebody that's doing some networking and things like that, if that's what you're looking for, you want 10 out of 10 people. Yeah, you want people with a bit of confidence. If you're not looking for that, generally speaking, they'll grade themselves 4 to 7, somewhere around that area. So depending on what you're looking for, depends on where you come. And obviously you can work out from the experience. If they say they've got 3 years worth of experience and they're a 2 in Sage, 0 in QuickBooks, then you probably don't want to recruit them at all because they've not got any confidence. But anyway, get them to grade themselves. And then we do accounts production, tax computations, so the actual proper job. Can they help customers on the query sheet? You can get a copy of this fact find as well. Do the query sheets and cash flow. How many experiences do they have? What size is the biggest customer that they've worked on? So we have a minimum fee. We tend to work on bigger customers. We don't do subcontractors. We don't do sole traders, etc., etc. So I want to know whether their experience is relevant to the types of customers that we've got. What's the biggest challenge that they've had when preparing a set of accounts? Gives us something to talk about if they get to interview. And then we talk about them. So at Greenstone, we have 3 values: to inspire, challenge and support business owners and their teams to be the very best they want to be. So if I've got people coming to me looking for a job, I want to make sure that they're inspiring, challenging and supporting people. They are in line with the values. So number 1, what have you done in the last 12 months that's inspiring? And some of the stories that we get when they're talking, especially around loved ones and stuff that they've done, charity money, it's like, so where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Type rubbish question. These are really interesting conversations to have with people so you can get a feel about culture fit. What have you done that's challenging? And then ultimately, what have you done to support people? So inspire, challenge and support. What's your favourite business book and why? And there's 2 reasons why that's there. We weed out the liars. So some people will go, the best book has ever written, Simon, was your book, Banish the Bottleneck. It's available on Amazon, that sort of stuff. Which is very nice because it shows that they've done a bit of research. You'll get others like the E-Myth or Good to Great or stuff like that. Or you'll also get people put, don't read business books, which is fine by me. I'd rather them be honest and say they don't read business books and then have a conversation about the books that they might want to read rather than them put some rubbish in there, and it's quite clear when they come to interview, as soon as I ask a question about the book, all I've done is read a synopsis, but I can ask them a question about the book and they've got no idea what it is that I'm talking about. So it weeds out the exaggerators. And then understand the phrase, help each other, lifetime achievement that you're most proud of. If you could describe yourself in 3 words, what would they be? They're all topic of conversations in order to for the interview, so it becomes much more interesting. The last thing we do as part of the fact-find process is we run a communication styles analysis. This comes from a book called It's a Zoo Around Here by Nigel Risner. It's not a very big book, but it is a great book all about personality styles. And as a part of that book, you can do a very, very basic profiling exercise. And basically, they just answer various different questions. So very simply, how we use it, if you want an accountant, somebody to tick banks and make sure that the T accounts reconcile, etc., in Nigel Risner's language, you want an elephant. Okay? So slow, methodical, accurate, good memory, etc., etc. So you think of all the positive attributes of an elephant. That's what generally a stereotypical accountant will be. So at Greenstones, 22 people work at Greenstones. The vast majority of them are elephants, which is very good. The almost exact opposite of an elephant is a monkey. I'm a monkey. I'm not very good at accounts. Nobody used to like following my working papers when I used to do a set of accounts. In fact, they detested it to the point where I was banned from doing accounts. If you want somebody to go out networking, standing up front talking, getting standing ovations at the end of presentations and things like that, then you need a monkey. Monkeys upset elephants. I upset my elephants because my elephants do not go fast enough. I get upset with elephants because I don't go fast enough. They are upset with me because I am always on the go, wanting to move, etc., etc. So depending on what you want, they're the two polar opposites, but depending on what you want, when they fill in their communication style, if I'm looking for a monkey, and they reply elephant, I'm not interested. They just don't get through the door. So it weeds them out. Now, as I say, the majority of that can be done by an administration person, somebody with an attention to detail. It doesn't need to be done by you as the practice owner. So you've now got your ATS system, your CVs, you've got your fact find, and your communication style. So you get them in, you sit down with them, you have a nice chat with them. They've not got 2 heads, so you think you might give them a job. And then the next thing, the last thing you should do before you give them a job is to get them to take a test. Now, you might get the test. No, you don't get the test. If you want the test, I'll email you the test. If you're that passionate about it, send me an email. Come and see me on the stand. I'll take your email address and I'll send you the test. The tests are fantastic. You'll get them. But the first thing that you'll do is go, oh, I wonder whether I can do that. One of the tests is about a trade creditors list. And on the trade creditors list, there's little things like prepaid invoices. There's a same creditor on twice, but with a different account code. There's stuff like that. There's stuff that's not been allocated. And we give it to the potential team member and say to them, do the test. And obviously, if they can do the test, then they get through. If they don't do the test, then they don't come through. It's quite sad in my world how many people that I really, really, really want to recruit, and then they fail the test, so I can't recruit them. And the most notable story is a chap that got 20 years worth of experience in another accountancy practice, which I respected, that accountancy practice. And when he came in, I'm saying to the team, can't do a test for him. He's been doing the job for 20 years. He's at ABC Limited. It's embarrassing. Of course he's going to pass the test. And one of the team members said to Simon, but you've got to test him, because if he comes in and you've not tested him and everybody else says that they've been tested, he's going to feel missed out. And then every other team member is going to go, well, why didn't he get tested? And he's going to be exercised before he even comes through. And I'm pleased that I did do the test, because you never guess what? He failed the test, and therefore, even though he'd been somewhere else for 20 years, couldn't do a VAT reconciliation, basically. Oh, no, not a VAT reconciliation. One of them's a depreciation question. So it's the net book value was 200 quid. Sold a van for 300 quid. Can you tell me what the journal is? Yeah, so you can, day one at college, and he couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. So definitely make sure you test them. It's one that we've made up. It's one that we've designed. The team have designed it. But there was all sorts of tests in Australia that you can use. So I'm done.